Breathe slowly and let the noise of the day begin to fade. Tonight we travel far beyond the blue skies of Earth to a quiet world where silence reigns and light arrives as a faint whisper from a distant Sunday. This is Mars, the red planet, a place both familiar and strange, patient and still, where humanity has learned to build small pockets of warmth against an endless horizon. Here, every sound, the hum of a machine, the pulse of a generator, the soft stir of recycled air becomes part of a new rhythm, the rhythm of survival and serenity. The gardens breathe beneath artificial light, water flows again, carefully tended, and above it all, the faint sunlight glows, like a promise that even in the loneliest corners of space, life can still find its way. So settle in and let your thoughts drift across the silence. Let curiosity be your compass. This is the story of endurance, of wonder, and of belonging, a journey through science for sleep life on Mars. For more than a century, our collective gaze has wandered toward the red horizon of Mars, a world both close and unreachable. From the moment telescopes revealed faint markings across its surface, humanity has imagined what might exist. Their canals, civilizations, perhaps even reflections of ourselves beneath a different sun. Over time, those dreams became quieter, reshaped, not by imagination alone, but by the instruments of science. Mars became less a canvas of myth and more a place of inquiry, a world of rock, wind, and frozen water waiting to speak through the voices of our machines. The first whispers came from afar, orbiters mapping the contours of its surface, tracing valleys that seemed to have once carried rivers. Then, in the mid-20th century, humankind reached farther. The Viking missions, launched by NASA in the 1970 seconds, became the first to touch the Martian soil. Each lander set down on a world that was cold and silent, its reddish dust undisturbed for billions of years. Cameras turned slowly, revealing a landscape at once alien and familiar: dunes, sculpted by wind horizons, softened by haze, and a sky, not blue but ochre, the color of ancient fire. Vikings' purpose was not simply to observe, but to search for life, for traces of something that might bridge the long distance between two worlds. Though its experiments found no clear signs, the mission changed everything. For the first time, Mars was not a mystery painted on paper, but a tangible world beneath our robotic touch. Decades later, that touch grew more confident. In 1997, the Sojourner rover, no larger than a microwave, rolled down its ramp and became the first wheeled explorer on another planet. Its tiny tire tracks stretched like a child's first steps across red sand, marking the dawn of a new era, one of movement, curiosity, and endurance. The success of Sojourner inspired greater ambitions, and soon came Spirit and Opportunity, twin rovers, launched in the early 2000s. Their mission was to search for signs of past water, to read the geological layers like pages of an ancient story. Spirit wandered the Gusev crater, climbing rocky hills and tracing mineral veins left behind by vanished streams. Opportunity roamed the plains of Meridiani Planum, where once long ago, liquid water might have shimmered beneath a thin blue sky. Each rover was designed to last 90 days. Yet Opportunity lived for nearly 15 years. Through dust storms and freezing nights, it endured, sending back images of sunrise over Martian dunes and of its own shadow stretched across the sand. When it finally fell silent in 2018, After a storm covered its solar panels in fine dust, NASA sent a final message into the dark. "My battery is low, and it's getting dark." The line was poetic rather than literal, but it captured the quiet heroism of exploration, the resilience of a machine built to dream on our behalf. Then came curiosity, larger, stronger, and powered by the heat of a nuclear generator. It landed in 2012 with a maneuver so complex it was called the 7 Minutes of Terror, a supersonic descent slowed by parachutes, then sky cranes, until its wheels kissed the ground inside Gale Crater. Unlike its predecessors, Curiosity carried the tools of a geologist, chemist, and photographer combined. It drilled into Martian rocks, analyzed their contents, and found evidence of clay and ancient lakes. Undeniable proof that Mars once had conditions suitable for life. Each discovery deepened our understanding not just of Mars, but of Earth's own origins. For to look upon that red dust was in a way to look backward in time, to a planet still whispering the secrets of its youth. And yet, curiosity never rests. In 2021, Perseverance joined the lineage. A rover with the soul of a scientist and the vision of a pioneer. It carried the MOXIE experiment, a golden box capable of converting Martian carbon dioxide into breathable oxygen. A small but revolutionary step towards sustaining human life beyond Earth. It also brought Ingenuity, the first helicopter ever to fly on another planet. In the thin Martian air, where pressure is less than 1% of Earth's ingenuity, lifted itself on spinning blades and hovered, proof that even flight, a miracle of lift and balance, could be reborn under another Sunday. Together, these machines continued the story that Viking began, each one an echo of human persistence, echoing across an alien sky. Through the lens of these explorers, Mars has revealed more than we once imagined. River deltas and dried lakebeds tell of a watery past. Mineral deposits trace the chemical fingerprint of life's possibilities. The planet that once seemed dead now feels like a frozen memory of vitality, as though it once breathed and might breathe again. The more we see, the more intimate the connection becomes. Every photograph sent across 140 million miles feels personal, like a postcard from the edge of time. We see not a barren wasteland, but a world that could have been ours, or one that may yet become our second home. Between each mission lies a rhythm, a cycle of patience and discovery. Years pass between landings, but the curiosity never fades. Teams of scientists wait, watching signals flicker in data streams. When a rover sends back a new image, it is studied like an ancient painting, each pixel decoded with care. Those who work on these missions often describe their rovers with affection, calling them she, speaking of their endurance with pride and mourning their silence with tenderness. In this way, the machines become more than tools. They are ambassadors of humanity's quiet longing to belong beyond the cradle of Earth. Beyond the scientific data, there is something deeper in these missions, a quiet philosophy. To explore Mars is to explore patience itself. Every command sent from Earth takes between 3 and 22 minutes to arrive. Every photograph, every signal travels through the darkness for millions of miles before reaching us. Communication with a robot on Mars is not a conversation, but a meditation. You ask a question and wait, knowing the answer will come only after silence. It is a partnership defined by time, delay, and echo of the universe's own slow dialogue. In that silence, something profound happens. We begin to sense that exploration is not conquest, but communion. The rovers do not rush, they drift, analyze, and observe. Their movements are deliberate, their progress measured. They teach us the value of slowness in a cosmos that stretches beyond measure. They remind us that discovery is not found in speed, but in stillness, in the quiet study of a single rock, a single grain of dust under a distant sky. Even now, as Perseverance drills into Martian stone and prepares samples that might one day return to Earth, we are reminded that these machines are writing the prologue to our future. Each wheel rotation brings us closer to understanding how to live, breathe, and build on another world. Each photograph of red hills and empty plains becomes a blueprint for human dreams. The rovers are our scouts, our messengers, our first tentative footsteps into the unknown. And soon, perhaps within this century, the echoes of those footsteps will no longer be robotic. They will belong to us. The silence that once greeted Viking will one day hear the faint sound of human, breathing the quiet rustle of fabric as astronauts step into the Martian dawn. But before that moment arrives, we must learn from the lessons these machines have left behind. Their endurance, their precision, and their quiet faith in the long journey ahead are the virtues we will need most. The story of robotic exploration is not just the story of technology. It is the story of patience, of humility before nature, and of a species learning to listen before it speaks. And so, as the dust settles once again over the tracks of our machines, the dream continues, not as fantasy, but as preparation. Every photograph, every line of data, every hum of a rover's motor is part of a single human breath, reaching across the void. It is our way of saying, we are coming, but we come gently. The rovers sleep, now beneath the same stars that once watched over Earth's first explorers. Their journeys are complete, but their silence hums with meaning. They have taught us to look closer, to move slower, and to imagine wider. And beyond their resting places, in the cold morning light of Mars, the future waits quietly, patiently, as if listening for the sound of footsteps to return. Between the Earth and Mars lies an expanse so vast it defies the scale of ordinary thought. On average, the two worlds are separated by more than 140 million miles, a distance that can stretch to nearly 250 million when they drift to opposite sides of the Sunday. To cross this gulf is to move through an ocean of emptiness, a void without air or sound, where the only measure of time is the hum of machinery and the slow rhythm of one's heartbeat. The journey to Mars, even in its most efficient form, would take at least 6 to 9 months. A spacecraft leaves the comfort of Earth's magnetic cocoon and sails into a realm ruled by radiation and silence. Out there, sunlight weakens its warmth, thinning into the cold of interplanetary night. Cosmic rays and solar winds, streams of charged particles from the sun and beyond, roam freely, carrying energies, capable of piercing the hulls of ships and the cells of human bodies. Without protection, these invisible storms could erode DNA, causing illness, weakening bones, and altering minds. The void between planets is not just empty, it is alive with quiet danger. Engineers and scientists imagine ways to shield the travelers. Some propose wrapping the crew quarters in tanks of water, since hydrogen atoms are among the best absorbers of cosmic radiation. Others envision building walls from rich plastics or liquid fuels that double as protective shells. There are even dreams of creating an artificial magnetic field around a spacecraft, a miniature version of Earth's natural armor, though such technology remains beyond reach for now. Yet amid these challenges, there is a quiet confidence. The same ingenuity that carried metal rovers across a foreign planet will someday carry living beings safely through the void. Inside the vessel, the days would blend into one another. There would be no dawn, no dusk, only the measured glow of artificial light cycling through carefully programmed hours. Beyond the narrow windows, the stars would remain motionless, unblinking, indifferent, eternal. The crew would live by routine maintenance, observation, exercise, rest. Their conversations would drift into silence, replaced by the soft hum of air recyclers and the occasional whisper of distant static. Time itself would feel different, stretched by distance, slowed by isolation. Communication with Earth would remain possible, but not immediate. Even light, the fastest thing in the universe, would take between 3 and 22 minutes to travel each way, depending on the positions of the two planets. A simple greeting would echo through the void, returning only after long stillness. "How are you?" would become a meditation rather than a conversation. Every exchange would be a dialogue with delay, a reminder that in space, even connection must move at the speed of patience. Imagine for a moment a traveler floating beside the viewing port, gazing back at the distant blue of Earth. It would be no larger than a marble, its clouds turning in slow, silent spirals. All of human history, every city, every forest, every ocean, contained in a pale dot suspended in darkness. Then, turning forward, they would see Mars, a rust-colored orb, faint but steady, like a coal glowing at the edge of night. Between these 2 points lies not merely distance, but transition between the known and the unknown, between home and the possibility of another one. To live in such isolation requires not only strength, but serenity. Space travel is as much a psychological challenge as it is a technological one. In the vast stillness between planets, the mind must find rhythm where none exists. Astronauts train for months to adapt to this, to the hum of machinery, the confinement, and the absence of nature's sound. On Earth, silence is rare. Even in the quietest places, we hear wind, water, or the soft movements of life. But in space, there is no air to carry sound, no echo to remind you that you exist. The silence becomes a presence immense, encompassing, and strangely intimate. Some describe it as peaceful, others call it unsettling. Yet all agree that beyond the fear and wonder lies a deeper truth, that in the absence of noise, one begins to hear the rhythm of one's own thoughts. This is where humanity's explorers must live for months, in reflection, in discipline, in the delicate balance between solitude and purpose. The journey to Mars is not only a passage through space, but a journey inward, a meditation on distance, time, and endurance. Even the path to Mars itself is not a straight line. Spacecraft must follow precise orbital mechanics, graceful arcs calculated by gravity and velocity. They launch when Earth and Mars align a narrow window that opens roughly every 26 months. Missing that window means waiting more than 2 years for another chance. The trajectory, called a Hohmann transfer orbit, curves gently around the Sun, using its pull to sling the spacecraft outward like a slow celestial dance. Each mile traveled is a conversation between gravity and momentum, a ballet invisible to the human eye, but essential to every step of the journey. During the months of transit, the crew would rely on layers of protection, not only physical but psychological. Small rituals would become anchors: the taste of rehydrated food, the steady beat of exercise, the simple act of writing a journal entry that might not be read for days. Music memories and messages from home would serve as bridges across the void. Each fragment of sound, each recorded voice would carry the warmth of Earth into the cold silence of interplanetary space. In that fragile space between two worlds, even the smallest comforts would feel sacred. A photograph taped to a wall, the shared laughter of a small crew, the first sight of sunlight glinting off Mars's horizon after months of darkness. In these moments, humanity would rediscover the quiet dignity of exploration, the patience that once drove sailors across uncharted oceans and now propels us through the black sea of the cosmos. And still, beneath the technical challenges, there is a poetic symmetry. For as humans drift farther from Earth, they begin to understand more deeply what it means to be of it. The thin air we breathe, the warmth of our planet's magnetic shield, the fragile web of life, all become magnified in their absence. Distance has a way of clarifying what is precious. The emptiness between planets reminds us not only of how far we can go, but of what we carry with us: the quiet fire of curiosity, the memory of home, and the hope of return. Eventually, after half a year or more, Mars would appear not as a distant spark, but as a full world, its rust-colored plains glowing beneath a salmon sky. The ship would prepare for descent, its engines adjusting course, its travelers ready to trade the silence of space for the stillness of a planet. The long crossing would end where another kind of challenge begins: the art of living on a world that has never known us. As the spacecraft glides closer, its reflection flickering against the thin atmosphere, the red planet slowly fills the window, ancient, waiting, and utterly silent. The hum of engines softens, the cabin lights dim, and every breath feels heavier with anticipation. The long voyage through darkness has brought humanity to the edge of a new dawn. And now, in that moment between approach and arrival, one can almost hear the faint whisper of the planet itself, the low hum of wind across endless plains calling softly through time. Welcome, travelers. You have come far. Beyond the descent, the horizon unfolds, a frozen landscape of craters and shadows, waiting for the first colony to rise. The search for a home begins. When the spacecraft finally pierces the thin atmosphere of Mars, the silence of space gives way to a different kind of quiet, the hush of a world that has waited for 4 billion years. The ship trembles as friction ignites the air around it, a brief flash of fire in a sky tinted rose and copper. Beneath the clouds of dust, an entire planet opens its ancient face, its canyons stretching like scars of time, its mountains frozen in the stillness of a world without rain. For the first time, humanity is close enough to choose. Where, among these vast plains and shadows, shall we call home? Mars is a world carved by its own extremes. From its equator to its poles, it tells a story of both promise and peril. The northern hemisphere is a wide, low basin, once perhaps an ocean bed smoother and younger than the rugged highlands of the south. Here the atmosphere gathers slightly thicker, just enough to slow a descending craft, just enough to whisper the memory of air. For colonists, this northern plain offers a soft beginning. Its lower elevation gives every breath a fraction more oxygen, every landing a gentler fall. Among the most promising regions lies Korolev Crater, a majestic bowl of ice more than 50 miles across. From orbit, its heart gleams with frost, a frozen reservoir that holds billions of tons of water sealed beneath a thin layer of dust. Unlike other places on Mars, this ice is stable, preserved by the cold air that sinks into the crater and forms a natural refrigerator. To settlers, it is a promise: where there is ice, there can be water. Where there is water, there can be life. Farther north, the polar caps gleam like shards of ancient glass, stretching for hundreds of miles. Their layered ice records the history of Martian climate epochs of dust and frost, stacked one upon another like pages of a silent chronicle. Here, beneath the frozen surface, lies one of the planet's richest resources. The ice could be melted, purified, and split into oxygen and hydrogen air, to breathe fuel to burn and water to drink. But the poles are harsh and sunless for long seasons. Energy would be scarce. Temperatures plunge below -100 Fahrenheit, and each sunrise comes only after weeks of darkness. The poles, though abundant, demand patience. They reward endurance more than comfort. Closer to the equator, however, warmth returns. There, beneath the dusty plains, lies permafrost ice, trapped in soil, frozen but reachable. Data from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and the Mars Odyssey spacecraft show that ice hides not only at the poles, but beneath the crust across much of the planet. Some of the richest deposits rest at mid-latitudes, where sunlight is steady and solar energy plentiful. These regions could offer a balanced water within reach power from above, and temperatures that, though still brutal, hover around a survivable range. It is here, scientists believe, that the first real colonies might thrive. Yet survival on Mars is not only about resources, it is about shelter. The planet's thin atmosphere provides little protection from radiation, and its magnetic field, once strong, is now nearly extinct. The surface is bombarded constantly by cosmic rays and solar storms, invisible waves of energy that could sicken or weaken those exposed for long periods. To live here, settlers must find ways to hide from the sun's wrath without retreating from its light. Beneath the surface, nature itself has already built potential havens. Lava tubes, vast tunnels left behind by ancient volcanic flows, wind through the Martian crust like veins of shadow. When molten rock once streamed through these channels, Their outer layers cooled and hardened, while their interiors remained fluid, eventually emptying and leaving hollow passages behind. Some of these caverns stretch for miles and could be large enough to fit entire city blocks. Inside them, colonists could find protection from radiation micrometeorites and temperature extremes. The ceilings are made of basalt, thick and strong, and the stillness within could become the foundation of the first underground homes. Imagine walking through one of these ancient tunnels' lights, glinting off the black glass of volcanic rock. Outside, the wind moves like dust over stone, but within there is calm, a silence so complete it hums. The walls echo the distant history of fire and pressure, and somewhere in that darkness, the hum of human life begins to take root. To the engineers of the first Martian settlements, such places are not barren. They are blueprints for survival structures waiting to be awakened. To reach them, explorers will rely on the patient mapping of orbiters and the eyes of drones. Every crater ridge and shadow is studied from above. The planet has already been charted in exquisite detail down to individual rocks by satellites circling high above the red plains. They have found places where ancient rivers once met lakes, where erosion carved delta patterns now dry as memory. These sites tell a story of habitability, of a time when Mars may have known water that moved freely, skies that held clouds, and air that could carry sound. By following those ancient traces, future settlers may find the best chance for renewal. The work of choosing a home on Mars blends science with philosophy. Should we seek warmth and sunlight or safety in the cold? Should we build beneath the surface or learn to endure above it? Each decision carries echoes of the past, of how humanity once learned to adapt to the deserts and poles of Earth. Mars demands the same humility, to listen, to observe, to adapt. The planet does not yield easily, but neither does it resist the patient. For now, Mars remains a silent partner in this conversation. From orbit, its features unfold in soft gradients, rusty plateaus, shadowed valleys and canyons that dwarf the Grand Canyon a dozen times over. The largest Valles Marineris stretches for nearly 2,000 miles, a wound carved deep into the planet's surface, wide enough to swallow entire states. It speaks of tectonic forces, long gone quiet, of a planet that once breathed deeply, but now slumbers beneath its own weight. And yet in its stillness there is potential, of vastness that humbles and invites all at once. If humanity is to live here, it must learn to move in harmony with this quiet world, to build with its dust, to drink from its ice, to shelter beneath its ancient stone. The first colony will not conquer Mars. It will learn its language, the language of patience, resourcefulness, and reverence. In time, the map of Mars will gain new names, not of craters and valleys alone, but of human places, habitat clusters, research domes, perhaps even the first gardens beneath red skies. But for now, these places exist only as coordinates on a screen, as dreams in the minds of those who prepare to make them real. And when the first crew steps onto the planet and gazes at that vast horizon, they will stand not as conquerors, but as guests, temporary custodians of a world that existed long before us. Their footprints will join the dust of meteorites and the marks of rovers, faint but meaningful. Each step a quiet promise to tread lightly. For in the end, choosing where to settle on Mars is not just a logistical decision, It is a statement of who we are. We are the species that searches for home even among the stars. And when the ground is chosen, and the silence of the plains is broken by the hum of machines, the next task begins to build not in haste, but in harmony. To let our first architects take form in metal and motion, the machines that will build the future. Before humans ever set foot on the Martian surface, another generation of explorers will arrive. First machines designed not to survive for a few hours or days, but to shape an entire world in our absence. They will descend from orbit like careful seeds, their metallic shells reflecting the sun of another sky. When their engines fall silent and the dust settles around their landing sites, they will begin the work of turning red dust into the beginnings of home. In the soft orange dawn of Mars, silence reigns. Wind drifts over empty plains, stirring sand that has lain untouched for eons. Then a quiet hum begins, not the voice of a living being, but the steady rhythm of a builder awakening. Autonomous construction rovers deploy from their landers, their instruments unfolding like wings. They carry drills, cameras, 3D printing heads, and solar arrays that tilt toward the weak sunlight. They move slowly, deliberately guided by algorithms and commands from a world 140 million miles away. Their purpose to create the first shelters, not for themselves, but for us. Every colony will need a foundation. Mars provides it in abundance, its surface blanketed with regolith, a fine iron-rich soil that can be molded into strength. Engineers on Earth have already learned to heat this regolith and combine it with small amounts of water ice to create a kind of sintered concrete, dense, insulating, and strong. These robots will gather material grain by grain, compressing, melting, and fusing it into layers that rise like pottery formed by invisible hands. In time, walls will take shape, thick domes of Martian soil, designed to resist radiation, hold pressure, and preserve warmth. Each habitat will be built layer by layer in a slow spiral that mirrors the patience of the planet itself. The printers will move in measured arcs, pausing to test the density of each layer before continuing. There will be no human supervision at first, only distant signals, coded routines, and the quiet coordination of robotic minds. Yet, in this stillness, the landscape will begin to change. The machines will work for months. Under the pale light, their solar panels gathering energy by day, their internal batteries humming through the long Martian nights. When dust storms roll across the plains, they will fold their arrays and hibernate, waiting until the sky clears. When sunlight returns, they will rise again and resume their work. The vision is not one of speed, but of endurance. NASA and ESA already study autonomous robotics capable of surviving such extremes, machines that can think for themselves when communication delays stretch for 20 minutes or more. Some will move across miles of terrain to gather ice or minerals, while others will remain stationary, assembling life support structures and power grids. A few may even work in teams, communicating through local networks, a colony of machines building the foundation for a colony of humans. Their architecture will be practical but beautiful in its simplicity. The habitats will resemble small hills, blending into the landscape, domes of dust and stone, shaped by necessity and patience. Inside, airlocks and pressure chambers will wait in silence, ready to be filled with the first breath of earthborne oxygen. Some structures may sit partly underground, their walls carved into craters or lava tubes, to provide extra protection. Others will stand beneath layers of regolith piled thick over curved roofs, shielding future settlers from cosmic rays. In the stillness of Mars, these domes will look like natural formations, as if the planet itself were preparing to welcome its new inhabitants. To bring such a vision to life, a symphony of systems must work in harmony. Excavation drones will dig trenches for cables and water lines. Fabrication bots will melt regolith dust into usable bricks. Assembly rovers will carry these materials, stacking and sealing them under the command of artificial intelligence. Some designs even imagine swarm robots, hundreds of small builders operating together like ants, capable of reconfiguring themselves to handle different tasks: welding, printing, lifting, repairing. Their movements will be slow, deliberate, graceful. In the pale Martian light, they will look almost alive. And while these machines work tirelessly, orbiters circling above will monitor their progress, mapping every wall and corridor in high resolution. On Earth, engineers will watch, adjusting instructions as needed, their screens glowing with the reflected light of another world. There will be moments of failure, machines buried in dust systems freezing in the cold. But there will also be small triumphs: a dome completed, a corridor sealed, the first flicker of interior light captured by a passing satellite. Each step forward will be a quiet promise that Mars is no longer untouched. It is becoming a place, prepared, a place waiting. Within these robotic blueprints lies a philosophy of coexistence. We will not arrive on Mars as conquerors, but as collaborators, letting the planet's own materials form the bones of our shelters. Nothing brought from Earth will go to waste. Metals from landers will be recycled into tools. Solar panels will power both human life and the robots that sustain it. Even the dust, once a symbol of lifelessness, will become a cornerstone of protection and permanence. The machines themselves will carry traces of home, the hum of Earth-born electricity, the software shaped by human hands. Yet once released into the Martian wilderness, they will act alone. Their sensors will feel the wind, and their cameras will trace the movement of light across red dunes. In their persistence, there is something deeply human, the same patience that carved cathedrals, built observatories, and launched ships across oceans. As weeks turn to months, the first structures will stand complete. They will be modest clusters of domes, connected by tunnels, power lines, snaking beneath the soil. Inside, the air will still be thin, the silence complete, but everything will be ready. Airlocks sealed, life support connections, tested solar networks aligned. The habitat will wait like a heartbeat, paused between breaths, the future held in perfect balance, ready to begin again. When the first humans arrive, they will find a place already shaped for them. They will open the airlocks, breathe the recycled air, and walk through halls built by unseen companions. Outside, the machines will continue their patient work, repairing, expanding, adapting. Some may remain active for decades, maintaining the colony long after their creators have left. Others will fall silent, buried beneath the same dust they once sculpted. Yet even in stillness, their legacy will remain, the quiet fingerprints of human intention pressed into Martian soil. Under the soft light of a distant sun, a new kind of partnership will emerge. Human and machine, united not by control, but by trust, will carry the dream forward. One builds, the other endures. One imagines, the other acts. Together, they will transform a barren world into a sanctuary, not through dominance, but through patience, precision, and care. And as the final dome is sealed and the first lamps flicker on beneath layers of regolith, a faint light will glow across the Martian night. For the first time in history, the red planet will shimmer with artificial illumination, a beacon to the dark sky. A sign that the work of centuries has found its home among the stars. The Martian sun rises dimly, a pale, distant glow, rather than a blaze. It casts long amber shadows across the barren plains, revealing the quiet geometry of the newly built habitats. Inside their domed walls, silence hums like a living pulse. For the first settlers who step within them, safety feels tangible, not in the warmth of light, but in the stillness of shadow. Beyond those walls, radiation dances unseen in the thin air, a reminder that on Mars, even sunlight can be dangerous. Unlike Earth, Mars no longer has a magnetic field to guard it. Billions of years ago, when its molten core cooled and slowed, the invisible shield that once deflected cosmic radiation faded. Without that protection, charged particles from the Sun and the distant galaxies sweep across its surface freely. They pierce the atmosphere, which is less than 1% as dense as Earth's, and bombard the ground with a slow, steady rain of energy. On Earth, our magnetic field and thick air diffuse that radiation. On Mars, it comes unhindered, washing over the soil, the rocks, and any fragile life that dares to stand beneath it. For this reason, protection from radiation is not a luxury for colonists. It is a necessity. The first habitats already built by robotic precursors are thick-skinned fortresses of regolith and ice. Their walls are made of the planet itself fused into solid curves, several feet thick, designed to absorb the silent storm from above. Engineers have calculated that a layer of roughly 7 to 10 feet of compacted Martian soil can reduce radiation exposure to levels comparable to life on Earth's surface. The heavier the barrier, the safer the breath within. And so the settlers will live not under the open sky, but beneath it, embraced by stone, surrounded by dust that has become both enemy and ally. Inside, the air will be still and filtered, recycled through quiet systems that hum softly like distant tides. Artificial lights will illuminate every corner, tuned to mimic the golden warmth of daylight. Here, time will follow human rhythm, again mornings, signaled by the brightening of LEDs, evenings by their gentle fade. Windows, if any exist, will be narrow, small ovals designed to preserve pressure, layered with radiation-resistant glass. From them, the colonists will see the faint blush of the Martian horizon, a beauty they can never touch for long. When they venture outside, they will carry their own protection suits, woven from layers of reflective material, pressurized and sealed. Every movement beyond the habitat will be measured in hours. Every return, a quiet ritual of re-entry and decompression. Before each excursion, they will pause in the airlock, listening as the hiss of atmosphere equalizes the sound of two worlds meeting in balance. Stepping out, they will feel the thinness of air, the weight of their suits, and the cold that bites without mercy. The wind will whisper over their helmets, carrying grains of rust-red dust that drift like snow but cut like sand. The storms of Mars, though silent in the vacuum-thin atmosphere, can be relentless. Winds can reach speeds of over 60 miles per hour. But the air is so light that they feel more like a soft push than a gale. Yet their power lies in persistence. Over weeks, they lift dust into the sky, wrapping the entire planet in a veil of shadow. During such storms, sunlight fades until the surface lies in twilight. For days, or even months, solar panels, dim temperatures drop, and the outside world disappears into a copper haze. Inside the domes, the colonists will rely on stored energy batteries, charged from sunlight, and the hum of compact nuclear reactors deep within the base. They will wait quietly until the planet's breath settles again. Radiation does not rest even in darkness. Cosmic rays from distant supernovae arrive constantly like invisible arrows through the night. Over time, this steady exposure can damage the body's cells, leading to illness or fatigue. To counter this, researchers on Earth are designing living systems that can help shield from radiation. Some studies explore biological coatings, layers of fungi and microbes that naturally absorb radiation, forming a living barrier that grows with the habitat. Others propose lining walls with hydrogen-rich materials, such as water tanks, which can block high-energy particles, while also storing the colony's most precious resource. Every detail becomes a thread in the same design: protection through patience, survival through clever simplicity. The concept of home on Mars, then, is different from home on Earth. It is not open or free. It is contained, curated, precise. But there is comfort in that precision. Inside the walls of the colony, the air will always be breathable, the temperature steady. The colonists will wake to the soft hum of machines that never sleep. Each sound, the whir of filters, the faint clicking of air vents, will become familiar, even soothing. In this silence, they will find their rhythm. Over time, the habitats themselves will evolve. As technology improves, domes may grow larger, linked by tunnels and courtyards buried just beneath the surface. Some designs envision transparent roofs made of thick glass coated with radiation-resistant films, allowing filtered sunlight to enter. Inside, greenery could bloom hydroponic gardens, thriving under diffused light, bringing color and oxygen into the gray world. In these hidden gardens, colonists may walk without suits, breathing freely, touching leaves that sway gently in the artificial breeze. In that stillness, surrounded by life born of two planets, they may feel for the first time that they are truly home. The act of building such shelters is more than engineering. It is a meditation on fragility and endurance. Mars offers no forgiveness for error, but every layer of regolith placed atop a dome is a gesture of resilience. Each sealed airlock is an act of faith. Inside, human breath mingles with the filtered air, creating a fragile equilibrium, a pocket of earth carried across the void. The settlers will learn to see the beauty in this fragility, to cherish the hum of life preserved within layers of stone. At night, when the power dims and the lights within the domes soften to amber, the colonists will gather near small observation windows. Beyond the glass, the Martian sky will unfold, a dark, immense canvas, strewn with unfamiliar constellations. Phobos and Deimos, the two moons of Mars, will drift silently overhead, their orbits swift and irregular. Occasionally, Earth will appear in the distance, a faint blue spark shimmering like memory. For a moment, they will see both worlds at once, the one that birthed them and the one that now shelters them. And in that view, the quiet glow of the domes against the red plain, the thin air trembling with the cold of space, they will understand what it means to endure. Mars will never be gentle, but within its harshness, it will offer something profound, the reminder that survival itself can be an art form, a testament to patience, ingenuity, and faith. For the first time, humankind will know what it feels like to live beneath alien soil, to build a home, not beneath the sky, but within it. And perhaps as they rest in their shelters, hearing the soft thrum of recycled air, they will realize that these walls are not prisons, but promises, boundaries drawn not to confine, but to protect. The shelters of Mars are not monuments of conquest. They are acts of gratitude carved from dust, shaped by endurance, and sustained by hope. They mark the beginning of coexistence between humanity and another world, a delicate equilibrium born from the quiet understanding that even a planet without life can still offer it. And within these quiet domes, as air begins to circulate and machines whisper the rhythm of breath, a new question emerges. How will we make this world truly livable? The next step begins with the simplest and most essential act: to breathe. Inside the domes of Mars, the air is not born, it is made. Every molecule that fills these habitats is the result of design, precision, and the will to survive. On Earth, air is a gift, an invisible harmony of nitrogen, oxygen, and traces of other gases, sustained by the endless work of oceans and forests. But here, beneath red dust and alien skies, each breath must be crafted like art, measured like poetry, and maintained with care that never ends. The first settlers will awaken to the hum of life support systems, the soft mechanical breath of the colony. Oxygen will not drift in from open air. It will flow through valves, filters, and compressors. Deep within the habitat, tanks filled with water extracted from the planet's ice or melted from frozen reserves will undergo electrolysis. Electric currents will split the water's molecules into hydrogen and oxygen, the latter stored and released to fill the living quarters with breathable air. The hydrogen in turn will be captured for other uses, refined into propellant, or combined with captured carbon dioxide to form methane, a potential fuel for return journeys. This process, though simple in theory, requires balance. The machines must work constantly tuned to the rhythm of human lungs. Too much oxygen and the air becomes flammable. Too little and life fades quietly. And yet, beyond the equations and systems, there is a quiet wonder. We have learned to take apart water, the very essence of life, and rebuild it into breath and fuel survival and return. Each molecule becomes a tiny bridge between two worlds. Beyond electrolysis, another experiment breathes alongside it, the MOXIE system, or Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment. It is a golden box, no larger than a suitcase, first tested aboard NASA's Perseverance rover. MOXIE takes in the carbon dioxide that fills 95% of Mars's atmosphere and breaks it apart, producing small but measurable streams of pure oxygen. Though still in its infancy, the technology is a promise of independence. The ability to live off the land of another planet, to breathe not by import, but by transformation. This is the essence of Martian survival, turning scarcity into sustenance. On Earth, air, water, and energy are abundant and intertwined. On Mars, they are fragile threads that must be woven anew. Inside the habitats, air recyclers will reclaim every exhalation. Carbon dioxide exhaled by colonists will pass through filters that capture it, separating what can be reused from what must be expelled. The remaining oxygen will be purified and recirculated, a constant cycle, breath by breath, day by day. The colonists will learn to live by this rhythm. The air will never smell like forests or rain, but it will carry a quiet sterility, the scent of metal and filtration. Some will miss the wind and the scent of life. Others will find comfort in the machine's constancy. Over time, the whisper of air vents will become a lullaby, the sound of a world carefully balanced between fragility and endurance. In another part of the habitat, humidity will be monitored, temperature stabilized, and pressure maintained. The atmosphere inside will mimic that of Earth's lower mountains, thinner than sea level, but enough to breathe comfortably. Beyond the walls, the outside air will remain deadly, composed mostly of carbon dioxide. Too cold, too thin. Yet even there, the settlers will sense a certain poetry. They are breathing within a world that has never known air fit for lungs, and in doing so, they are giving Mars a heartbeat for the first time in history. The mastery of air also brings the mastery of fire, the ability to generate energy through controlled combustion. The same oxygen that sustains life will also feed engines and systems. Small generators may burn methane and oxygen, producing heat and water as byproducts, each resource cycling back into the colony's self-contained loop. Every output becomes an input. Nothing is wasted. On a planet where every atom counts, even breath becomes currency. But there is another form of air on Mars, not within the domes, but beyond them. The thin, red-tinged atmosphere that stretches from the surface to the edge of space is both alien and familiar. It contains traces of argon, nitrogen, and oxygen, the same ingredients that once nurtured Earth's earliest skies, though here they exist as whispers. Standing outside, the colonists will look up through a salmon-colored haze, watching the faint curve of the planet's horizon. They will see dust hanging in suspension, drifting endlessly through the cold. And in that stillness, they may wonder what this air would sound like if it could carry a voice. Scientists have already captured the sound of wind on Mars, faint vibrations recorded by the microphones of rovers. The wind moves softly across dunes and rock too thin to roar, but enough to whisper. In those recordings, the planet seems to sigh, a slow, ancient breath, as if it too is exhaling after eons of silence. That sound, faint and fragile, connects both worlds, Mars and Earth, silence and voice, isolation and belonging. For the colonists, maintaining this delicate ecosystem will become a sacred ritual. Each system, oxygen generation, filtration, humidity control, will be checked daily. Sensors will monitor pressure fluctuations and temperature drifts. A single leak, even the smallest crack, could turn breath into danger. And yet, amid this vigilance, there will also be gratitude, an awareness that every inhale is a miracle of design and resilience. They will learn to pause and listen, to feel the air on their skin, and know that it came from the planet itself. In time, plants will join them. Within hydroponic bays, illuminated by soft white light, green leaves will unfurl, photosynthesizing, releasing oxygen while absorbing carbon dioxide. The balance between machine and life will blur, becoming a partnership. The air will no longer belong solely to the colony's systems. It will belong to living things once more. And with that, the cycle will close, humans breathing what plants create, plants thriving on what humans exhale. Mars will begin to breathe with them. Perhaps the greatest symbolism lies not in the machines or the chemistry, but in what this act represents: humanity's ability to take a dead world and give it breath. To look upon an alien sky and say, "We will breathe here." In that moment, we become not just explorers, but caretakers of ourselves, of our technology, and of a new world learning to host life again. When night falls inside the domes and the hum of air recyclers continues in the background, a stillness will settle. The colonists will close their eyes, feeling the subtle pressure of atmosphere around them, artificial, precise, but enough to cradle dreams. Outside, the wind will pass over empty plains, whispering through canyons that have never heard human breath. And inside, a soft truth will linger in every heartbeat, that life, even in its most fragile form, finds a way to fill silence with sound. For the first time in 4 billion years, Mars has air that moves with intention, not the indifferent sigh of dust, but the gentle rhythm of lungs. The red planet is no longer breathless. And now that the air within these domes begins to flow with the rhythm of life, another vital current must follow: energy, the pulse that keeps the colony alive when sunlight fades. On Mars, light is both delicate and determined. The sun, so brilliant on Earth, reaches this world, weakened its warmth, thinned by distance, its rays, soft and pale, like the memory of a flame. Yet it still arrives faithfully, silently, crossing millions of miles to rest on red dust and polished metal. For the colonists, that faint sunlight is more than illumination. It is the thread that ties them to the rhythm of home, to the slow heartbeat of life itself. At dawn, the colony stirs. The first light touches the curved surfaces of the habitat domes, tracing soft arcs of gold along their edges. Outside, fields of solar panels awaken, unfolding in perfect synchronicity, like the petals of a metallic flower. They turn toward the dim sun with slow precision, catching every possible glimmer of light. The air is cold, the ground silent, but the hum of electricity begins to flow, a quiet pulse, spreading through wires buried beneath the soil. This is the first breath of every Martian morning, the moment the colony begins to live again. Energy here is sacred. Every watt harvested from the sun, every spark generated deep within the reactors, keeps the delicate balance between warmth and cold light, and shadow life and stillness. On Earth, power comes easily from rivers, wind, or flame, but on Mars, it must be earned, cared for, and stored like a heartbeat in a fragile chest. The settlers know this. They treat energy as they would treat air or water, with patience and gratitude. The solar fields stretch for hundreds of feet, glinting in the orange light. Their surfaces are coated with fine layers of dust-resistant film, each one designed to repel the red silt that drifts endlessly across the plains. Yet even the best designs cannot keep Mars at bay. Slowly, inevitably, the dust settles, dulling their shine, dimming their strength. So the colonists walk between them, sweeping gently with soft brushes, their movements careful, almost reverent. They clear the panels not just for function, but as a kind of ritual, a morning gesture to greet the light that sustains them. But sunlight alone cannot be trusted. Mars is a world of storms, vast rolling tempests that can cloak the planet for weeks. When they come, the sky turns the color of rust and day fades into a dim amber haze. The dust hangs so thick that even the faint outline of the sun disappears. During these storms, the colony's lights remain dimmed to conserve power. The hum of systems slows to a whisper. Outside, the panels fold flat to protect themselves, their surfaces blanketed in red sand. Inside the domes, the colonists wait. They listen to the muted howl of wind against the outer walls and feel the soft vibration of distant thunder, carried not by sound, but by pressure. In those long hours of shadow, they remember that survival here is not conquest. It is endurance. To bridge the silence of storm and night, another form of light burns below the deep, steady glow of the reactors. Buried beneath layers of soil, small fission cores generate warmth and stability. They do not flicker or fade. They burn quietly like embers in the heart of the planet. These reactors are small enough to fit inside a single cargo module, yet powerful enough to sustain life for decades. Encased in shielding and cooled by the cold air of Mars itself, they are the colony's hidden sun, unwavering, unyielding, and calm. The engineers who designed them understood the poetry of balance. The solar panels provide the rhythm, bright days of abundance, followed by quiet nights of dependence, while the reactors provide the pulse, the constant baseline that never stops. Together they form a dual heartbeat, the day's breath and the night's endurance. One teaches the colony patience, the other continuity. Inside the habitat, the colonists can feel this rhythm in subtle ways. The lights brighten when the panels are full dim slightly, when the sun dips low. The air warms gently by day and cools by night. The hum of machinery shifts in tone, soft but perceptible. Over time, these patterns become comforting reminders that the world outside may be alien, but its cycles still carry the echo of Earth's own. When the storm passes, sunlight returns like a quiet miracle. The dust begins to settle. The air clears and the panels unfold. Once again, the colonists step outside to witness the sky's slow transformation from deep amber to pale pink, then to soft gold. As the light strengthens, their shadows stretch long across the ground, sharp and silent. The solar fields glint once more, their surfaces catching the reflection of a distant sun. The energy flows again, humming through the cables, filling batteries buried deep within the regolith. The colony awakens fully, like a heart, resuming its natural rhythm after a long-held breath. Every photon matters. The settlers have learned to store sunlight the way ancient civilizations once stored grain. Massive batteries beneath the habitat capture excess energy during the day, holding it in reserve for the long nights. Each cell glows faintly with internal light, a reservoir of future warmth. The colonists monitor them like caretakers, tending to a fire, ensuring that no charge is wasted. Here, nothing is taken for granted. Even the simplest light bulb, the smallest spark, carries meaning. At dusk, when the panels turn westward for the last glimpse of fading light, the colonists gather in the common room. The glow from the walls shifts to amber, a gentle transition, signaling the close of day. Outside, the solar fields dim, their reflections fading into shadow. The last rays of sunlight strike the domes, shimmering faintly before slipping below the horizon. Then, one by one, the stars appear brighter than any seen from Earth, sharp and countless in the thin Martian air. For a moment, the colonists watch in silence. The sun may have weakened, but the universe still burns with light. Mars teaches them that energy is not simply a resource. It is a conversation between survival and gratitude. The reactors hum quietly, the batteries rest full, and the colony's systems breathe in rhythm with the sky. Life continues, steady and patient. The colonists have become the keepers of two suns, one above, one below, both sustaining the fragile thread of existence on this red world. Inside the domes, the hum of power is constant, a low vibration beneath the silence. It moves through every wall, every circuit, every heartbeat. It is the sound of continuity, the proof that even in the thinnest light, life endures. The colonists drift to sleep under that steady pulse, comforted by its presence. Outside, the wind moves softly over the panels, carrying dust across the empty plains. And though the stars are cold and distant, the colony glows faintly against the dark, a single point of warmth in a vast, frozen world. The light that powers life does not burn fiercely here. It breathes slowly, like a candle protected by glass. But even the faintest flame, when guarded with care, can outlast the night. Water is memory. It carries the story of every world it has ever touched, from the first rains that carved the valleys of Earth to the frozen crystals that lie buried beneath Mars. It is patient, eternal, unbroken by time. On this distant planet, it sleeps beneath layers of dust and stone, waiting for warmth, waiting for the sound of life. To find it is not merely to discover a resource, but to awaken something ancient, the echo of oceans long gone, and the reminder that even in silence, the cycle of life endures. The colonists learn early that every drop matters. On Mars, water does not flow in rivers or fall from clouds. It hides in ice tucked within the soil and craters of the north. Beneath the soft plains of the northern lowlands lies a treasure, vast sheets of permafrost frozen for millions of years. To reach it, robotic drills extend their long arms into the ground, breaking through dust until they strike the glitter of frost. The machines hum quietly, melting the ice with low heat, drawing it upward through narrow pipes into storage tanks, where it refreezes clean and bright under the glow of artificial light. Inside the habitat, the process continues, the slow dance of purification. Water flows through filters layered with carbon and ceramic, through ultraviolet chambers that strip away any trace of contamination. When it emerges again, clear and silent, the colonists pause before drinking. They see their reflections in the glass, and for a moment, it feels as though they are looking back at Earth itself, at rivers, at rain, at waves, breaking against forgotten shores. This is the closest thing Mars has to memory, and it now runs through their veins. The colony's closed-loop system ensures that no drop is ever wasted. Every breath of condensation, every tear, every wash of hands returns to the cycle. Wastewater is cleaned, sterilized, and reborn, passing through filters and chemical treatments until it becomes pure once more. It is a miracle of engineering, but to those who live by it, it feels more like devotion. They treat water not as a utility, but as a companion, something alive that moves between them, sustaining life as it has since the beginning of time. In one section of the habitat, a transparent pipe carries recycled water through the central corridor. It glows faintly blue under embedded lights, a river of light flowing through the heart of the colony. The colonists pass it daily, their hands brushing against the glass, feeling the faint vibration of movement. It reminds them of home, of mountain streams, of falling rain, of oceans that once defined their sense of belonging. Here in this desert of another world, they have created a river once again. Outside the habitat, another kind of water sleeps deeper, older. Beneath Korolev crater, a reservoir of ancient ice lies untouched, preserved under dust that insulates it from the weak warmth of the sun. It is water that has never known touch, never melted or flowed, since before humanity existed. In time, the colony will send expeditions there, guided by drones that can drill through the frozen crust and extract samples. Within that ice may lie stories, trapped bubbles of gas from ancient atmospheres, frozen microbes, or perhaps simply silence. Whatever it holds, it will be a message from the planet's deep past, whispering across eons. Water shapes more than survival, it shapes emotion. Inside the colony, showers are rare, short, and measured by timers. The colonists learn to find beauty in the smallest luxuries, a few drops on the skin, the sound of water hitting metal, the faint mist that cools the air. They listen to it the way one listens to music. The soft hiss of recycled steam becomes a lullaby, a reminder of rain. There are moments when condensation forms on the inside of the habitat's glass, tiny beads gathering before sliding downward in delicate trails. The colonists watch these drops move slowly, refracting the light of Mars's distant sun into miniature rainbows. In that quiet act of observation, they find peace. Even here, on a world of rust and silence, water still performs its ancient dance of motion and reflection. In the hydroponic gardens, water takes on a new role, the bridge between nature and technology. Clear channels carry nutrient-rich liquid past the roots of growing plants. The water glows softly under the LED lights, swirling beneath leaves of lettuce, herbs, and vines. Its journey is circular, absorbed by the roots, released back into the air, condensed on the habitat's inner walls, and returned to the tanks. Nothing is lost, only transformed. It is a living system, quiet, complete, infinite. Scientists among the crew marvel at how perfectly this cycle mirrors life itself. Every drop moves through states solid, liquid, vapor, but never truly disappears. Even on Mars, where temperatures can plunge to 100 degrees below zero, water endures in all three forms: ice vapor and, through human will, liquid. It becomes the great equalizer, the link between worlds, between biology and technology, between the past and the future. Sometimes the colonists sit in the garden after hours, the lights dimmed, the soft bubbling of water echoing through the space. In those moments, they remember Earth's sounds, the rush of rivers, the patter of rain, the endless pulse of waves against the shore. The memory brings both comfort and longing. Mars is quiet, but in the movement of this recycled water, they hear the planet beginning to speak. It is the voice of continuity, calm, patient, unbroken. The presence of water transforms the colony from an outpost into a home. It softens the air balances, temperature carries heat through the pipes. It brings scent, faint but unmistakable, the freshness of oxygenated air. In the stillness of the night, the colonists sometimes place their hands on the pipes, feeling the pulse of warmth moving within. It is the planet's new heartbeat, carried by the oldest element of all. For humanity, water has always been more than chemistry. It is symbol and sustenance, purity and renewal. On Mars, it becomes all of these once more. The colonists speak of it with reverence, referring to the tanks not as storage, but as wells. They understand that each molecule here may have crossed the universe, traveled from comet to planet to human, an endless chain of existence that never breaks. They are not creating water, they are borrowing it from time. And when the day ends, when the last of the machines quiets, and the colony rests beneath the faint light of the distant sun, a soft mist fills the garden chambers. Droplets cling to the leaves, catching the reflections of red and blue light until they shine like jewels. It is a small miracle, a moment where science becomes serenity. The colonists breathe deeply, the scent of moisture mingling with dust, and for a moment they feel they are standing beside Earth's oceans once more. Here at the edge of two worlds, water is more than survival. It is remembrance. It holds within it the history of life, the memory of rain, the echo of every river that ever carved a valley. In its movement, the colonists find connection to Earth, to Mars, to themselves. And so even on a planet of rust and shadow, the spirit of water continues clear, eternal, and alive. From this quiet river of remembrance, something begins to grow. Under red skies and soft artificial light, the first green returns the gardens of Mars, where life takes root once more. In the beginning there was only dust, endless plains of red rock, wind-scoured ridges, and silence deep enough to swallow sound. Then came light, faint, artificial, but alive. And within that light, something small began to move. It was green, trembling softly under the glow of lamps, its roots stretching into water instead of soil. A seed had awoken on Mars. The hydroponic gardens lie at the heart of the colony, beneath the protective curve of the habitat dome. The air here is warmer, thick with moisture and the scent of growth. Rows of plants rise in careful lines, their leaves reaching upward toward panels of violet and blue light. The hum of the air filters is constant but gentle, blending with the faint trickle of circulating water. It is not Earth's jungle or meadow. It is quieter, deliberate, an engineered forest, breathing in rhythm with the machines that sustain it. Each plant begins its life in a shallow tray of nutrient-rich water, its roots bathed in a liquid blend designed to mimic the fertile soils of Earth. Sensors measure pH, oxygen, and light intensity with exquisite precision, adjusting constantly to keep the balance. Above the trays, LED lights cast an otherworldly glow. Not sunlight, but something close enough to fool the green cells into life. Chlorophyll, awakens. Photosynthesis begins, and with every pulse of light, oxygen flows back into the colony's air. The colonists move through the aisles in silence, tending the crops, as though performing a sacred ritual. They trim leaves, measure growth, and record data on tablets, their reflections shimmering faintly in the glass. The plants respond to touch, swaying almost imperceptibly as the air shifts around them. In this chamber, life is both science and art, the convergence of precision and patience. Some of the crops are familiar lettuce, beans, tomatoes, herbs. Others are chosen for efficiency microgreens that sprout in days, nutrient-dense algae that bloom in transparent columns of water. Together, they form the colony's living larder, a system designed not only to feed, but to heal. Every green leaf, every droplet of condensation on glass is proof that life can still thrive even beneath a red sky. Yet Mars does not yield easily. The regolith, the planet's soil, is dry and toxic, filled with perchlorates that choke roots and poison growth. To transform it into something nurturing, the colonists must cleanse it first. Machines wash the dust with recycled water, removing the harmful salts and refining it into fine grains. It is mixed with organic matter, grown from algae and bacteria, turning it dark and rich. Only then can the first seeds be pressed into it. Each one a quiet act of defiance against the barren world outside. In one corner of the garden stands a different system, aquaponics, where plants and fish exist in harmony. Transparent tanks shimmer with clear water, filled with small tilapia, drifting lazily through the current. Their waste provides nutrients for the plants. In turn, the plants purify the water. It is a perfect loop, a living microcosm of Earth's ecosystems recreated here in miniature. The colonists often stand by these tanks, watching the slow motion of the fish as they glide beneath reflections of green leaves. It is mesmerizing, a reminder of rivers and lakes left behind, and of the ancient partnership between species that defines all life. In these gardens, the sound of life has a rhythm. The soft gurgle of flowing water, the whisper of air vents the occasional rustle of leaves against glass. The colonists find solace in these sounds. They spend their free moments here surrounded by color after long shifts spent among metal and dust. Some read, some write, some simply sit in silence, breathing the moist air and feeling for a moment as if they were home. The first harvest is small, but it feels monumental. The colonists gather around the trays, cutting leaves of lettuce and small herbs, placing them carefully into baskets. The meal that night is modest fresh greens mixed with preserved rations, but the taste is unlike anything they've known since leaving Earth. It is crisp, alive, filled with memory. For the first time on Mars, the flavor of life has returned. Beyond sustenance, the gardens offer something deeper, a connection to time. Plants do not rush. They grow slowly, responding to cycles of light and darkness, to care and stillness. Their patience teaches the colonists to slow down, to measure days, not by tasks completed, but by leaves unfurling. In a world ruled by machinery and precision, this organic rhythm becomes a kind of meditation. Psychologists among the crew note how the gardens affect the settlers' minds. Heart rates slow, stress levels drop. The sight of green is known to soothe the human brain, to restore balance in ways that even sleep cannot. In this place of relentless adaptation, where every breath and movement is calculated, the presence of living color is a quiet mercy. As months pass, the garden expands. Vines curl around support frames. Flowering plants bloom in soft yellows and whites, their petals glowing faintly under the lights. Tiny pollinators, robotic drones, designed to mimic bees, move gently among the blossoms, ensuring continuity. The system hums in perfect equilibrium. The colonists watch it with pride, but also humility. For all their technology, they understand that they are not creators here. They are caretakers. Sometimes, when the wind outside is calm and the domes are silent, the colonists dim the lights and let only the faintest glow remain. They stand quietly among the plants, the air thick with oxygen and scent. In that dim light, the green seems to shimmer, as if remembering the forests and fields from which it came. The colonists close their eyes and breathe deeply. In that breath, they are connected to Earth, to Mars, to everything that has ever lived. The gardens are not just sustenance. They are a promise, proof that life does not surrender to distance or time, that the instinct to grow transcends worlds. Each leaf unfurling beneath the red sky is a declaration of endurance, a whisper of home, carried into the silence of another planet. Outside, the sun fades behind a horizon of dust, painting the domes in amber light. Inside, the gardens glow softly in the twilight. Between red and green, between desert and oasis, humanity has found balance. The colony hums quietly, part machine, part organism, and the plants continue their slow, faithful work, turning light into breath, breath into life. And in that rhythm, Mars itself seems to breathe. But beyond these walls of green and light, another truth waits, the weight of stillness, the ache of distance, and the quiet strength it takes to live so far from home. Silence on Mars is not the absence of sound. It is the sound of distance. It seeps through the walls of the colony and into the heart, a low, invisible pressure that hums between each breath. Out here, there are no birds, no wind through trees, no murmuring oceans. Only the quiet rhythm of machines and the faint pulse of one's own heartbeat, echoing softly against the dome. The colonists wake to this silence each morning. It greets them before the lights rise, before the hum of the habitat begins its steady day cycle. Some grow used to it, folding it into their routine, like background music. For others, it weighs heavier, pressing down with the cold patience of the planet itself. Solitude becomes both a companion and a teacher, one that demands stillness, endurance, and the acceptance of space that will never answer back. Messages from Earth arrive hours late. A simple conversation stretches across time, each word separated by minutes of emptiness. Families back home send videos, faces smiling, voices warm. But by the time the colonists respond, those same faces have already moved on to another day. The distance is more than physical. It is emotional, a delay in belonging. To live here is to live between moments, suspended in the quiet gap where human connection used to be immediate. The habitat's windows look out onto an endless horizon. The sky glows a pale orange by day, fading to deep rust by night. The colonists often stand at these windows after their shifts, staring across the plains. There is comfort in the sameness, in knowing the landscape will not change overnight. Yet sometimes, the stillness becomes too much. The eyes crave movement, a wave, a leaf, a cloud. But Mars gives only the drifting shimmer of dust. Inside the colony, the lighting is soft, the air recycled, the temperature constant. Everything is balanced, stable, and controlled. Yet the mind hungers for chaos, for the unpredictable, the living pulse of a world that breathes beyond human design. To cope, some turn to ritual, they record messages, they exercise, they read, they write. Others find solace in the gardens where plants offer a small resistance to the stillness. The faint rustle of a leaf, the reflection of light on water, these become precious sounds, small echoes of Earth's noise. There are days when laughter returns, shared jokes over simple meals, the clink of metal mugs, the comfort of routine. The colonists learn to celebrate the ordinary, the taste of freshly grown greens, a message received from home, a system that runs without failure. They measure happiness not in abundance, but in stability. It is a quiet kind of joy, the kind that thrives in scarcity. Still, isolation reveals the edges of the human spirit. The mind begins to stretch, inward, exploring corners that were once too bright to see. Memories surface of ocean waves, of crowded streets, of rain. The colonists learn that memory can be both refuge and burden. In dreams, Earth is always vivid, the warmth of sunlight on skin, the smell of rain-soaked soil, the sound of a loved one's voice. Then morning comes, and the world is silent again. To protect their mental health, the colonists practice routines of connection. Group meals are mandatory. Every evening they gather in the common room beneath the soft glow of simulated sunset. They share stories, observations, quiet laughter. They remind one another that they are not alone, even when the stars suggest otherwise. The psychologists on board encourage journaling, music, and art, small acts of expression that weave emotion into the stillness. Over time, the walls of the habitat become lined with drawings, photographs, and handwritten notes. Together they create an inner landscape, a reminder that humanity's imagination still thrives even here. The body too begins to change under this solitude. In the thin gravity, muscles weaken, bones lose mass, and the heart must work differently. Each day, the colonists spend hours exercising in the gym, running on treadmills, strapped with harnesses, lifting resistance bands, cycling in place. The machines fill the air with sound, a rhythmic heartbeat of movement against the otherwise quiet space. It is tiring work, but it grounds them. To move is to resist stillness. To sweat is to remember what it means to be alive. Sleep comes differently here. The nights are long, and the colony hums faintly in the background. Some dream vividly, their minds conjuring oceans and forests to fill the void. Others dream of silence, vast, weightless, endless. The psychologists call it planetary isolation fatigue, a form of weariness that blurs the edges of time. But even in this fatigue, there is beauty. The settlers learn to listen to the silence, to find rhythm in their own breath. Mars teaches them to be still without fear. Sometimes during their night shifts, a colonist will look through the observation dome and see Earth, a small bright dot in the distance, suspended among the stars. It glows faintly blue, almost fragile against the void. They know that on that dot people are waking up. Oceans are moving, winds are carrying voices across continents. And here, under the Martian sky, they feel both infinitely far and quietly connected. Solitude, they realize, is not emptiness. It is space made visible. On Earth, the noise of life hides the vastness of existence. Here, it is laid bare. The colonists begin to understand that loneliness and wonder are not opposites. They are twins born from the same silence, shaped by the same longing. Over time, they stop fearing the quiet. It becomes their teacher, their mirror. It shows them how fragile they are, and yet how capable. They begin to find peace, not in what they left behind, but in what they have. Become a small community, breathing together beneath an alien sky. One evening, a storm rolls across the horizon, sweeping up red dust that glows in the fading light. Inside, the colonists watch through reinforced glass as lightning flickers silently across the plain. There is no sound, no thunder, only flashes of light, a cosmic ballet performed in absolute quiet. One of them whispers almost to themselves, "It's beautiful," and in that moment, the others nod. They understand. Mars may be distant, but it is alive. As the lights dim for night, the colonists retreat to their quarters. The hum of life support fills the air, steady and calm. They lie in their bunks, eyes closed, listening to the pulse of the habitat, the soft exhale of recycled air, the faint vibration of machinery. In that rhythm, they find comfort. They are alone, but never truly. Beyond these walls, the planet waits vast, silent, and timeless. Within them, the spirit of humanity endures small, but unbroken, glowing softly against the dark. The longer humanity stays on Mars, the more it must become a part of it. The planet has no air that can be breathed, no rivers to drink from, no gentle gravity to cradle the body as Earth once did. To endure here, every breath, every heartbeat, every cell must adjust. And so the question begins to rise softly, inevitably, like dust lifting in a slow wind. How much can we change before we cease to be what we were? Adaptation begins as necessity. The colonists' bones lighten under the pull of weaker gravity, their muscles subtly redefined by resistance and restraint. Blood pressure shifts, sleep cycles alter under twin suns of artificial day, and the faint light of Mars' real one. Even the mind begins to reshape itself, accepting the silence, the distance, the isolation. Over time, the colonists start to move differently, slower, steadier, as if the planet's rhythm has entered their bones. The air they breathe, though made by machines, carries the scent of iron and dust. They are becoming in quiet increments Martian. Scientists have long imagined what adaptation could mean for survival. Perhaps one day the settlers' genes might be tuned to withstand radiation, or their lungs altered to breathe thinner air. Some whisper about modifying vision to see in the dim light, or blood chemistry that holds oxygen longer. On Earth, these ideas might sound like fiction, but here, under the distant sun, they feel almost inevitable. The boundary between human and environment has already blurred. Technology fills the gap that biology cannot. But even as these thoughts arise, so too does hesitation. What does it mean to rewrite what nature spent millions of years perfecting? Would changing the human body to suit another planet make us pioneers or exiles from our own kind? The colonists discuss it quietly, over shared meals and long evenings. Some speak with pragmatic, calm adaptation is survival. Others speak with reverence. Humanity's limits are part of what makes it human. Between them lies a space of uncertainty, filled with the hum of machinery and the faint sound of their own breathing. At night, one of the scientists records a message for Earth. Her voice is soft, thoughtful. We can change our genes, perhaps, our bones, our skin, even our senses. But can we alter what we long for? Can we reprogram memory or love, or the ache for blue skies? She pauses. If we could, would we still be us? Her question drifts across the void, a whisper carried by radio waves that will take minutes to reach home. A small human doubt traveling through cosmic silence. Adaptation on Mars extends beyond biology. It is a moral and emotional transformation. The settlers are forced to redefine comfort, beauty, even purpose. They learn to find awe not in abundance, but in endurance, not in what they have, but in what they sustain. Their values begin to shift. Efficiency becomes elegance. Stillness becomes strength, and cooperation replaces independence. The very nature of survival demands humility. In the laboratory, geneticists experiment with resilient plants and microbes, life forms that can thrive in thin air, low light, and freezing soil. They watch as new generations grow stronger, more tolerant. Some of these experiments succeed spectacularly. Algae that bloom in the cold, bacteria that digest regolith to release oxygen. Others fail, quietly dissolving back into stillness. Each attempt carries both hope and caution, for in shaping life, they are reminded of their own fragility. Philosophers among them, scientists with poets' hearts, begin to ask deeper questions. If we adapt ourselves to live here, are we still Earth's children, or do we become something new entirely? Is humanity defined by its form, or by its capacity to reach beyond it? In silence, these thoughts drift like static through the base, unspoken, but shared, a collective wondering that has no clear answer. Outside, the sky glows faintly with stars. There are no clouds, no blue to scatter the light, only clarity. The constellations seem sharper here, their distances cruelly precise. One of the colonists stands by the observation dome, tracing the faint line of Earth across the heavens. The planet is no more than a pinprick of blue, yet it holds everything they once were. He wonders quietly whether one day someone standing there will look back at Mars and feel the same. The adaptation is already underway, though not as the scientists imagined. It is not in the genes, but in the spirit. Humanity, stripped of noise and comfort, is learning how to exist with less. To breathe patience. To see beauty in silence. To find companionship in the hum of machinery and the growth of small green leaves. This is evolution, not of body, but of being. The colonists are learning to inhabit wonder again, to see themselves not as masters of a world, but participants in its vast, indifferent grace. There is a humility in this transformation. The colonists know they are not conquering Mars. They are being shaped by it. Every step, every breath, every choice is part of an ancient dialogue link between life and environment. Just as the first microbes on Earth adapted to their oceans and skies, so too do these humans now adjust to dust and silence. The pattern repeats not as imitation but as continuation. In the end, adaptation is not betrayal. It is remembrance, the universe's way of reminding us that change is the cost of existence. To evolve is to honor life's persistence, to carry its flame forward into new forms, new worlds. The colonists may look different one day, breathe differently, think differently, but their essence, the spark of curiosity and care, will remain. That perhaps is what it means to be human, not to stay the same, but to remember who we are even as we change. As the colony drifts into night, the lights dim to a faint golden hue. The air hums softly, recycled and warm. Somewhere in the quiet, a plant releases oxygen into the room, completing its invisible gift. One colonist sits by the window eyes, half closed, watching the stars shimmer. In their reflection, the vastness of space looks back ancient, patient, and unjudging. Tomorrow will come as it always does. The light will rise, the machines will hum, and humanity will continue learning, adapting, remembering, because even here, under a sky of dust and silence, we are still children of the same universe, still reaching, still evolving, still dreaming beneath the endless light. The Martian night stretches endlessly, a vast canopy of stillness and starlight. The colony rests beneath it, its domes glowing faintly, like lanterns scattered across a red desert. Inside, the hum of life support softens to a whisper. The air is calm, the lights dimmed to gold. The machines breathe quietly, and so does humanity. A fragile rhythm, sustained against the silence of a world without wind. It has been years since the first landing. The colonists no longer count time in days or months, but in cycles of light and shadow, growth and stillness. What began as an experiment in survival has become something deeper, a meditation on existence itself. They have learned that life, no matter where it takes, root carries within it the same pulse, the will to continue. In this place, far from Earth's oceans and skies, they have rediscovered the oldest truths. That light, however, faint, can still sustain life. That water, even when buried in ice, still remembers how to flow. That green can rise again from dust, and that the human spirit, though small and delicate, holds the quiet strength to remake the impossible into home. Mars has taught them patience. It has shown them the grace of limits, that not every problem demands domination, that endurance can be an act of reverence. The colonists move through their routines like caretakers of a fragile flame, tending to systems, plants, and one another. They know now that existence is not measured by abundance, but by balance, by the harmony between giving and taking, by the awareness that life itself is a borrowed gift. Sometimes during the long night, they stand at the observation dome and watch the horizon glow faintly blue before dawn. The sun rises, slowly painting the red plains in muted gold. The solar panels unfold. The gardens stir, the soft hum of machinery. Rises again the world, waking gently. And in that moment, they feel it not loneliness, but belonging. A quiet acceptance that humanity is no longer bound to one world alone. They think often of Earth, of rain, oceans, forests, and the endless sky. But they also know that those things are not gone. They live here too, in memory and motion, in every drop of water recycled through the habitat, in every leaf unfurling beneath artificial light, in every breath that fills their lungs. The essence of Earth has simply found a new shape, a new rhythm, a new home beneath another sky. Beyond the domes, the stars burn steady, patient as ever. The same constellations that once guided sailors across dark seas now shine upon this red horizon, reminding them that distance is only a measure, not a barrier. Somewhere among those stars, Earth glows a blue shimmer in the endless dark, carrying its own hum of life, its own fragile brilliance. The narrator's voice softens almost a whisper. Perhaps this is what it means to belong to the universe, not to conquer it, but to listen to it, to learn its silence, to move gently within it, as light moves through darkness. And in that silence, the colony breathes. The hum of energy, the trickle of water, the faint rustle of green beneath red light, all blend into a single timeless sound, the sound of continuity, the sound of life. Mars sleeps beneath a sky that has seen countless ages, and now, for the first time, it holds a small pocket of warmth, a fragment of Earth's story carried across the stars. Humanity has not conquered the void. It has joined it, folded itself into the great fabric of being. As the stars shimmer above, the voice concludes calm and certain. Here in this quiet corner of the cosmos, life endures, not in defiance, but in harmony. Light still flows, water still moves, and the human heart still dreams.